Daily Show. Welcome back. Bill Kinkle in the studio. Get it? Genesis Wealth Management. This is going to be another great conversation. Bill, you were on a couple of months ago, and great to have you back in the studio. You got more great things planned.
Absolutely. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me. Back in June, we did some workshops at Vera Lee's Meeting Event Center. Kathy and Kirsten Gray are just great folks. They're my go-to for handling refreshments, and they're actually going to be supporting me out in Bethalto. We're doing a couple of events out there. Next Tuesday, July 28th, we're doing a deep dive into estate planning essentials. And I've got my good friend Walter Ozark, local estate planning attorney, that's going to be joining me during that event. And, one thing I think that's important for people to think about, when you think of estate planning, often folks are thinking wills, trusts, and that's what you should be. You should be having a will and deciding what's best for you. But really, those are decisions that are best inside a financial plan. And estate planning, when it's done within a financial plan, will expose weak spots in other parts of your planning. Mm-hmm. For example, surviving spouse, how you're taking Social Security, tax management, asset allocation for your income, long-term care considerations as you age. So, we'll be exploring those things in detail. And I also have to compliment the RiverBend website team.
Oh,
Mike
yeah,
and Brandon.
There you go.
They do a phenomenal job on my website. Much appreciated.
Awesome.
I'll fire probably what they think are some really silly questions from time to time.
Same here. I do.
They handle it really well. And of course, Sue Lawrence and her team out in Bethalto, the village of Bethalto, allowing me to use that space, the village-owned space. So really appreciate that.
This is so cool. Well, Bill, take me through a little bit more of the Genesis Financial Group and more of what we can expect in these next couple of events.
Right. Well, first of all, we've been working with folks in the Riverbend, Calhoun County, Macoupin, Jersey, over in St. Charles, St. Louis County since 1999. Mm-hmm. So if I'm counting my fingers correctly, that's about 27 years of experience working in retirement and estate planning solutions. And I think one thing that we see that's a big difference is one-off decisions that are made, for example, with estate planning or with healthcare that are outside of a well-defined financial plan. And what can happen there is that you go out and you wake up one day and you're like, I've been procrastinating getting a will. I need to get a will. And you go out and you accomplish that and you put it off to decide. Well, when it's done within a financial plan, what can happen is estate planning is going to ask questions about the other elements, the interconnected elements in your financial plan. For example, let's take a married couple, a high-earning spouse has close to maxed out Social Security, and then you have a lower-earning spouse that may have just enough years to have minimum Social Security. Well, estate planning is going to dive into that very decision process and expose, how should you claim Social Security and how should you protect that surviving spouse? Because the reality of it is, barring some tragic accident,
right,
one spouse is going to predecease the other.
Oh, exactly.
And so how is that spouse, their survivor benefit through Social Security and how your assets are allocated, how does that play out? Well, when estate planning is tied into a financial plan, it can expose weak spots. It can expose questions about how you presently asset allocated.
That's true.
How much do you have? What's your taxable, tax-free, and tax-deferred accounts look like?
Yeah.
And tax management. And then, of course, if you're looking to pass on a legacy, well, one of the very first questions, are you going to have enough money to live on? And what's your longevity? And how does that play out? So we're going to dive pretty deep into that. We're going to try to accomplish that in under an hour. But we're going to have some very informative handouts. Walter's going to jump in on the legal side. But the financial planning section really defines how you should be viewing that estate plan.
Yeah.
Really uncovers some weak spots. And then go ahead.
Well, and I'm sure there's so many components of this when it comes to, what's the tax? How much are we getting taxed? If you have any heirs to any trusts or any type of assets, what's that look like? Are you structured for that? Did you even prepare for it?
Right, right. And it's one thing it's important to know within that financial plan, because what are you trying to plan for? Are you planning for the surviving spouse?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're single and you're just planning for legacy.
Yeah.
You're planning that, hey, I've accumulated wealth. I want to live long enough to spend it, which I think everyone can agree.
Yeah.
And then whatever's left, I want to pass that on to my beneficiaries without tying them up in court and paying the least amount of taxes possible. And for robust savers, a lot of information I see out there focuses on the federal estate tax, but Illinois estate tax can sneak up on people. If you've been working out of ConocoPhillips and you've been religiously saving, and you look around, and next thing you know, between your 401k, your investments, your home, boat, RV, you've eclipsed $4 million. Well, state of Illinois has got a plan for you there on their estate tax, including property that you would own outside of here. So if you're a snowbird, estate planning within that financial plan is going to identify those risks that, we know folks that come wintertime, they're in Arizona and they have a home in Arizona. Well, the state of Illinois has got a multiplier for their estate tax. It's going to include and reel that other property in. So all of those things, when they're bundled in a financial plan, expose weak spots. And if you think if you have a financial plan, we're happy to give you a thumbs up or give you some tips on how you might improve it. I'm really happy with our team of CFPs. Their only goal, they're not trying to run a business outside. Their only goal is building financial plans for us. And, it's interesting that the CFP exam, about 18% of that covers retirement income. Wow. So it's really important that you need to understand, is the firm you're working with specializing in that?
Right.
Our software, everything is geared towards that. It's not a Swiss Army knife where we're trying to make it work for everyone.
Right. Well, and how early do you recommend somebody start really taking a serious look at this?
Well, first of all, if you're in your 20s, and I have fond memories of my 20s, and I was bulletproof. It always happens to the other guy.
Yeah.
So you're building a family, you're young, you need to be thinking about the things that can get you into probate.
Yeah.
And that's especially guardianships. If something happens to you, who's going to take care of the children?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people say, well, my plan is, the godparents will take care of that. And Walter will cover that. But, courts don't recognize that. It's a religious designation, godparents. That's ceremonial. But as far as the courts are concerned, if you don't have some type of planning preparing for that, so incapacity is another one. And that can happen to all ages. When you're no longer able to sign documents due to incapacity, someone else has to step in and do that. Now, if you don't have anyone set up with that, with the proper legal documents, then the court is going to represent you. And they're going to do that through probate. And they're going to determine who can actually step in, pay your bills, take care of business while you're trying to recover. So really, it's a broad spectrum of people that should really incorporate. If you're young and the financial planning process would be focused on accumulation, then estate planning is still a function within that financial plan. As you start to get older and you start to think about retirement, then that accumulation plan starts to change slowly into a retirement income plan. And really now you're looking at, hey, I have to replace my paycheck. I have to figure out how I'm going to draw income, when to take Social Security. Do I have a pension? When do I turn on those secure income sources? And how do those fit into the overall financial plan? And estate planning is a key element of that.
Well, and it's so important that you bring all this to the table. And, take me through the details of the event again. What date and how can we register?
Sure. Well, the best place to get a reservation is RiverBender.com. events. It's posted on there. It's easy to find. Your listeners are familiar with RiverBender, so you can jump right in there. You're going to find the estate planning on Tuesday, July 28th. That's out in Bethalto, right off Central Avenue. And then we have a companion, what I would call a companion workshop on August 6th, and that's Retirement Ready. And the purpose of Retirement Ready, these deep dives are great. What we're going to do with Retirement Ready is bring all of this together and how a financial plan or a retirement income plan assesses all of these different risks and how I build a retirement income plan. So we're going to walk right through that. I've got some great handouts that folks will be able to take with them. I also have Walter's going to come in for that one as well, because we're going to hit estate planning. As I mentioned, it's part of a financial plan. And I also have a healthcare specialist that's going to come in. She's got a couple slides. Michelle Zimmer is going to be present. She's going to cover some healthcare considerations, whether you're retiring prior to Medicare or you're retiring and you're looking to get into Medicare. She's going to cover those types of concerns and how those fit in to an overall financial plan.
Absolutely. It's always great talking to you, Bill. Thank you so much for your time as always. And we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks again for having me.
We are out of time today. A busy show, but we got through it. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow as we wrap up the week that was on a Friday. Until then, as always, my friends, try your best to stay out of jail.